Hi there, music lovers and all. Thanks for joining on BCTV. And this is, you are watching Chops All Music. And I'm your host, Kat Orlando. And I'm so pleased to be bringing you all kinds of guests on my show these past episodes. And this one in particular. Well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. I'm not in Detroit right now. I'm not in the Detroit area. I'm in Florida. Larry and I are performing in Florida. But I didn't want to stop still bringing you the best music from Detroit because I'm super proud of where I'm from. And I still live there 8 months out of the year. So I want to keep bringing you all the music to you, stuff that you might not be aware of, or if you are aware of, you really will enjoy this next guest coming up. He has shared the stage with funk royalty, and he's one of the hottest drummers around town. He's a touring musician and producer. Please welcome Gabe Gonzalez.
Hey,
On there. There you are.
how you doing today?
Good, good. I'm good.
And you gotta send us some of that sunshine. We need. Well, we got the sun. We need some of that nice warm weather.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying, and it's taken a little while to get it going over here too. Probably one of the
Yeah. Oh
coldest
yeah.
Januaries yet over here. But yeah, we're working in that direction. So, but hey,
Got you.
thanks for taking the time to join on
Oh
online.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So, if our listeners are into funk music, or maybe they're not, and if they are into that, they probably already know you. But for those not familiar, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Gabe Gonzalez, and I'm an artist, professional drummer, producer, band leader, yada yada
Yeah,
yada.
yeah, you do it all. Yeah,
Well,
and
more than I probably need to, but it's got to get it done. No.
get it done, right, right. And so, well, so let's go back, because I mean, I think the last time we spoke or we met might have been either at one of your gigs or maybe a Detroit Music Awards get together or something like that. So let's go back to things that I probably don't know about you either. Um, like, what was your first experience that drew you to music?
Oh, uh,
Going back ways.
well, no, I'm pretty good with that one.
Okay.
Well, I've always loved music from being an early toddler. I think my first memory would be me playing a Temptations 45 when I was 3
Three. Wow.
on a little turntable, that record player that
Yeah.
a neighbor left behind when they moved.
Yeah.
And I kind of just fell in love with records and carrying them around. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that kind of started with that.
Did you have a kit back then, or were you banging on pots and pans or something? You know what I mean? A lot of
Well,
drumming
from
around.
what my family tells me, they said that I used to pull the pots and pans off from under the sink.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I really don't.
Right.
But I do remember I got my first drum set, which was one of those like J.C. Penney catalog Christmas drum sets.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And I didn't last long because the heads was kind of like paper or something. So it was almost like a Keith Moon experience. So that didn't last long.
Oh, in other
The
words, you're
drums
like
were,
destroying it before.
yeah, they were done like a
Yeah.
couple days.
Right, right. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So what are your who are your idols as far as drummers go?
Uh, I don't really have any idols. I guess when I was younger, I used to idolize a few people, but uh,
I mean, back then, that maybe you
oh well, back
that
then, well, see, I had to think about that. I mean, you mean musically or in life, period? That's what I'm asking.
drummers, specific.
But drumming. Okay, well, I got uh kind of into drums and playing when I was about 10, like seriously.
Oh, okay.
And then my aunt actually, she was like the Sheila E of the '60s, I would say, because my
Really?
aunt was pretty badass. She was a drummer around town, and
Really?
yeah, Chiquita Bivens, that was her name. She had her own band, and she played with a lot of pretty legendary blues guys, if I'm not mistaken, like Howlin' Wolf
Wow.
or maybe John Lee Hooker or somebody like that. I don't know. But she was
Really?
really good at blues. Yeah, she
Yeah.
sat in with my band a couple times and come watch us rehearse and stuff. But she gave me my first professional drum equipment, like some old Gretsch drums she had in her attic.
Oh
She
yeah.
had a pretty big house in Detroit in like Boston Edison area, and so
Oh
it was
yeah.
like a huge house and all these kids, and so it was always music. So I was just like stay there with them a lot and visit, and
Wow. That's a great
yeah,
environment. So yeah, I can understand how you got drawn in like
yeah.
that.
So she was kind of like an idol because I really looked up to my
Sure.
aunt. You know, she was
Yeah.
cool too, so she would let me,
Yeah.
listen to music and hang out.
Yeah.
And then I would say, uh, I started playing professionally a little more like when I was about 14. I started playing in my uncle's church, and then by the time I was 15, I was doing professional recording sessions in Detroit at
15. Yeah.
Pack 3 Studios and a few other studios. I was in a band called The Second Coming, and we're kind of like a Prince clone band. We were pretty good. We
Oh,
were all teenagers, but
yeah.
people didn't know, like musically listed to us, that we were that young. So, and then we were doing
Wow.
like a lot of shows around town. Even then, I remember like still being in high school and playing at a club until 2 in the morning, like when I was a junior in high school,
Yeah.
leaving the club at like me 2 or 3. Then we go to Rams Horn and eat, and then I had to be at school. I would always miss my first hour class because I could never wake up on time because I wouldn't go to bed till like 4 or 5 in the morning. So then I had to
Right.
be up in 2 hours later to go to school. So it was kind of rough for me at that point. But
It's like, hey, I'm
hey,
working.
hey,
Right.
I was getting that experience. We was
Yeah.
playing the circuit even in high school. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So
So, yeah.
uh, well, I was just gonna say. So as far as idols, I think back then when I started getting more into it, I started listening to like uh, a lot of pocket drummers like Yogi Horton, who's on records like a lot of Luther Vandross stuff, Diana
Oh.
Ross, Upside Down, You Turn Me,
Oh,
a lot of
really?
those hit records. Yogi, he was the man. He was very powerful,
Huh.
commanding on the drums, and then I think Prince had to be another early influence. Once I realized he played drums on a lot of stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I think I remember he put a single out back in like '83 or something, and he had a drum solo on it. I think that song's called "Irresistible." I can't say the full title, but anyway,
Yeah. Right.
he has
Yeah.
a little drum solo in there, and that kind of taught me how to, you know, do a drum solo from listening
Huh.
to that. So, so
Okay.
that was another one, and then
Yeah.
from there, I got in the stage band in high school at Mumford, and I started playing a lot of jazz and fusion and stuff with some of my classmates, and that kind of got me into like drummers like Billy Cobham and Stuart
Yeah.
Copeland
Oh, okay.
and Tony Williams and Lenny White and Buddy Rich. But
Oh, yeah.
I just more admired Buddy. I never tried to play none of his stuff because
Yeah.
it was like he was from another planet. So, but anyway, but that's kind of some of the main idols and influences, and another good friend, Dennis Chambers, who
Okay.
is a personal friend. He's considered one of the world's greatest drummers, and we are personal friends. So I could say he's probably one of the last ones I kind of like idolized, if you want to say that, or looked
Oh,
up to.
okay. Now
So
you
yeah.
mentioned Buddy Rich and well, these jazz drummers, right? And now after watching drummers, I noticed that there's underhanded snare and overhanded. Is that particular to you think? Is that particular to jazz drumming, doing the underhanded?
I
Uh,
think what you
yeah,
referring to
yeah,
is
like
the
the
grip that drummers
y-
play. So there's
yes.
considered a right way and technically a wrong way. But I was taught from my first teachers to really hold the drums or how the drumsticks, however I felt comfortable.
All right.
So I kind of was given lessons earlier on, and I still play a little traditional grip. You know, it's where you hold the stick in between
Oh,
these
okay.
two fingers, and then match grip, which Buddy Rich denied. He downplayed it because he always was one of those ones to say, "Oh, you don't want to do that." But Buddy
Uh
Rich
huh.
played match grip too, even though
Oh.
he always downplayed it because
Okay.
you could do most basic stuff, when you playing traditional grip, but match grip, it gives you a lot more power and control over, or at least for me,
Okay.
over the drum. So yeah, I pretty much match grip, but from time to time for jazz and lighter stuff, I will play traditional grip sometimes.
Okay. Because I seem to notice that from one genre to another is the what you call match grip, overhanded, um, for
Mhm.
what I call overhanded for rock and hard drive and stuff for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so let's jump over to now you performed with George Clinton, or did you record with him, or what's your connection to?
Well, that's a funny story. Like I was
Okay.
kind of into P Funk. I
Mm-hmm.
think I got first turned on in my first Funkadelic song when I was about 5.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So my uncle was like a hippie, so he gave me a couple records. I think my first one was Grand Funk Railroad,
Yeah.
Pluribus Unum, which I was really into.
Yeah.
And then he gave me Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits after
Yeah.
that. And then one day he snuck in my room and was like, "Here, put this on. They're from outer space." Now I'm looking at the record. I'm thinking, what? And I'm 5. I can literally remember that
Yeah.
all these like 4 decades and a half ago. I still remember that like yesterday. I
Wow.
put it on the turntable. I put the needle on, and George Clinton came in with this crazy monologue. If you will suck my soul, something, and then it was just like I was just looking around like, am I supposed to be listening to this? So
Right.
it was pretty shocking. And then
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people don't know that that particular song, which is my first introduction into P Funk, is called "Mommy What's a Funkadelic," and it's one of my favorite P Funk songs. I mean, to me, anybody getting into them for the first time, you need to listen to that song and start there.
Oh, okay.
Because for one, like for years, I thought it was all George's members, but a lot of people don't know because I'm kind of a music historian.
Yeah.
That song has Dennis Coffey playing guitar on it and Bob Babbitt from the Funk Brothers. So a lot of people,
Oh.
and Ray Monette from Rare Earth. So a lot of people didn't know
Uh,
Funkadelic was already integrating the white rock bands into the funk stuff
yeah. Yeah.
around town. Plus, they would do shows with the MC5 and Iggy and the Stooges and the Amboy Dukes. That was a normal night to see probably
Yeah.
Funkadelic with them. So, so that kind of, was it from there. So later on in life, like I said, I think I went to my first P Funk concert around 79, 80.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, my father ended up taking me, which that's a whole nother story. But I had gotten in trouble earlier on when I just mentioned that whole thing about that record. And but that's, we'll get into that. But
Oh,
so
okay.
my dad was a popular barber around town.
Oh. Uh-huh.
He pretty much did Jackie Wilson's hair, David Ruffin,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who these people were. It was just people in the barbershop to me until later in life.
Yeah.
And I remember getting in trouble at kindergarten trying to play that Funkadelic album for show and tell. And
Yeah.
that never happened. So I had this little Mickey Mouse plug and play record player, and I was like,
Yeah.
show and tells. You bring your toy to class, and
Right.
okay, today class, I'm going to show my evil Knievel off or whatever.
Yeah.
My hear me, my little 5-year-old self. Oh, today class, I'm going to play some music, and I think I may have slipped up and said Funkadelic because I remember seeing the look on the ladies' faces who was watching us,
Okay.
and they looked at each other like, You know, he didn't just say what he think he said. Cause
Oh, so the
Funkadelic,
lyrics were
well,
low.
Funkadelic was still funk is a bad word in some vicinities of the
Oh,
world, believe it or not.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
back
Okay.
then, you couldn't even say that. So it's
Oh,
just like
okay.
it was
Okay.
deep. So
Yeah.
pretty much, you know, my dad had to come get me from kindergarten because my mom was studying her master's degree at UD at the time, and
Oh,
she
wow.
told me that morning, "Don't take that record to school." And of
Don't
course,
think.
I defied her, snuck it in my little Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Mary Poppins record. Okay, mom, I'm gonna take this one.
Okay.
That totally didn't work out. So
Yeah.
anyway, long story short, getting back to so that was my first introduction, and I remember my dad reading the record, looking, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to listen to this or like this stuff. I know this man, George Clinton. He's crazy. He jumps on tables with jock straps on, and now I'm
Okay.
5. I
That's
don't
what
even know what a jock
he's
strap
getting out.
is. I'm just looking like I figured it was
Yeah.
something lewd or something, but
Yeah.
I'm
That's what he's
thinking
getting
what?
out.
And then he tells me he cut a moon and a star and a penis in his head. Now I'm not.
Oh.
I'm making this up. Like literally, he cut these objects in George Clinton's head in the early
Yeah.
'70s. Now,
Oh,
of
okay.
course, that's so far fetched. I'm like, I really didn't believe him actually, but I'm just like, okay, Dad, cool, you know. So it kind of made me like them even more. So fast
Yeah.
forwarding, so 5 years later, he ends up taking me to my first P Funk concert, which was
Oh,
at
okay.
Cobo Hall or Joe Louis. I'm sorry, when
Oh,
Joe
right.
Louis just opened up,
Okay.
and it was an amazing show. I mean, I could be for what I could take in at that age because at that time P Funk had a stage show that nobody can match. I don't care who it was
Right.
because they were signed to Casablanca, which had Kiss, so they was pretty much parallel to Kiss but doing R&B and funk.
Yeah.
So
Light years
so
away.
Neil Bogart put a lot of money into them. So
Oh,
but I
uh-huh.
was disappointed because everybody, you know, will talk about seeing the mothership land. This particular show, P Funk had a concept that year. Uh, They landed an egg on stage, a
Oh, okay.
gigantic egg, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Where's the spaceship? What the hell is this?" And it cracked open, and one of the members came out, and I was
Yeah.
just like, kind of like, you know, wow, okay. So I didn't get to see the mothership, but
That's a long
so,
way from I just want to testify with their hair all slicked back, because
oh
that's
yeah, well,
really
those, yeah, that's like kind of before my time. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, they were still doing doo wop then,
Yeah, that was they
and
were more the pre-Temptations, the old
mhm.
Temptations Motown
They
thing.
actually covered Sergeant Pepper's. I have a version of the Parliaments doing that, and it's really
Wow.
good. They did it like
Yeah.
amazingly, and the Funk Brothers did the rhythm section.
Okay.
So George was making a lot of noise. Actually, they had a lot of influence on Motown too, a lot. So
Oh,
that's how,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, they would tell me all the stories. The original members, Bernie Worrell, and how Stevie
Okay.
Wonder would come sit next to them and record the show, or
Yeah.
Norman Whitfield would sit there with his tape recorder, and that's where the Temptations got all their intros. The da da that they got that from Funkadelic. So,
Wow. Yeah. So
that,
later on, did you actually play with them or
well, that's the
in
thing.
the
Okay,
studio?
so my
Okay.
first show, I'm just so
Okay.
amazed by everything. I'm
Oh,
just
all right.
looking, checking it all out. I wasn't really into music then. I just liked it. So it
Oh,
was
all
just,
right. Uh-huh.
so I wasn't really looking at the drummer. It was just like I said, P Funk stage show. It had
Oh,
so
okay.
much to look at, and at that time they had Doug Henning doing the magician. He was doing a lot of stage theatrics for them. So there was this little
Ah.
midget with a little midget with this little star wand, and he would go and tap different members, and they would literally disappear on stage. It was pretty crazy. I mean, I literally remember seeing that
Ah.
at that age. So
That'd
so
be
they
cool.
had all that gimmickry going on with the musicians and people
Mhm.
disappearing, and
Yeah.
it was just wow. So it's at the end of the night, so I'm looking at my father like, okay, Dad. So you know George Clinton, prove it. You know, being
Okay.
so young.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Kind of like the old Mean Joe Green football commercial when the kid he got the shirt. So, but
Oh, right.
anyway, so somehow my dad got us, you know, backstage, and like I said, this was Joe Louis. This is in an arena,
Yeah.
so it was a pretty
Right.
huge show. The barcades actually open,
Huh.
and it was. So it was just amazing. So we get backstage, and it's just my mind is just completely, I'm like, wow. So I remember walking up to, I guess, where the rooms were, and
Okay.
I remember George seeing my father for the first time in years, and he yelled out loud to everybody, "Hey, y'all, that's the guy who cut my hair." And I'm
Okay.
like, my mouth drops like, oh, he does
Yeah.
know him. So it just totally
Wow.
blew me away.
Right.
So we're in the dressing room at this point, and I remember my father telling George Clinton, "Yeah, this is my son. He's a fan of y'all. He loves all y'all stuff, man. He listens to all your records and blah
Oh,
blah, all
okay.
that crazy stuff." So George Clinton starts pointing random members out in the band to me. Now, like I said, I couldn't have been no older than 10,
Oh,
maybe
wow. Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
And I'll start naming all these various people I never met in my life. And it was blowing him away because he's
Yeah.
looking at the band members thinking, man, these kids and people really are reading these album covers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, because I
Right.
could read back then, I was pretty good, with that at the early age, especially at that time. I was going to military school in Monroe. So, I was happy to get
Huh.
away and do something. So,
Okay.
anyway, yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. And then years later, I would say fast forward 7 years later after that, I went
Okay.
to United Sound
All right.
to a recording session where George Clinton was producing Oldest Day and the Nights from, Animal House. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so he was producing them, and I remember going one night, and I became real good friends around that time with Amp Fiddler. This had to be about '87, and I was in
Okay.
high school then, so I started kind of, I started meeting some of the guys, and I would call one of the numbers on the album cover, and it was with the artist who did all the Funkadelic and George Clinton solo albums, Pedro Bell, and he was in Chicago.
Okay.
And I remember him talking to me and being so intrigued that I was really young and so into the P Funk knowledge and all that. So he gave me one of the guys' number in Detroit that was affiliated with George and kind of was
Oh, okay.
he was kind of like a ambassador. He would find a lot of the people that came to P Funk came through this guy, and
Oh,
he
all
brought them
right.
to George Clinton. So
All right. Huh.
so that's kind of how that happened. And I remember that night I didn't get access to the studio though. We were on the porch, we like peeking in the window, like hey.
Okay.
And it was a closed session because Bernie Worrell just happened to be there at night laying keyboards down.
Mhm.
And so we came back another day, and it was just me and a friend of mine who was a fashion designer at the time,
Mhm.
Maurice Malone. So I used to work for him in high school too. So we get in, and Amp and a few guys around, they were working on the theme music for the Tracy Ullman show,
Huh.
and
Yeah.
that was pretty deep. So they're doing it. Bootsy Collins was there. Bootsy was actually playing guitar on the track, and it was just really Amp and Bootsy in the
Was this
track.
like the 90s at this point?
No, this is still '87.
80s? Oh,
So
that's right. Okay. Okay.
yeah, so it's '87,
Uh-huh.
and Tracy Ullman, and just her show just came out,
Okay.
and
Uh-huh.
she's the British comedian or whatever. And, it was
Yeah.
kind of funny.
I kind of
So
remember that show. Yeah.
yeah, so that theme song was them. If nobody really knew that probably, but yeah, that was George
Yeah.
Clinton and Amp and Bootsy Collins. So I'm sucking it all in. So basically, I remember telling George like, hey,
Mhm.
uh, I met you, several about so many years ago. My father
Okay.
used to cut your hair and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And I started naming him, and George's like, oh yeah, I remember that. George's
Wow.
memory pretty thorough with that. And it was around that same time George was producing the Red Hot Chili Peppers, so that's kind of
Okay.
how I got into them. But anyway, so I told him I played drums and yada yada yada, and it was in high school and still doing some things. So about a year goes by, and they had a show. This is around the summertime at a little club in Detroit called the Cotton Club.
Okay.
And I remember at that time George had just got a record deal with Prince with his label Paisley Park. So excuse me. So he basically had this little local show, and he needed a band and some guys, so it's kind of he gathered up some of the locals here and basically
Oh,
used
okay.
half of my band, which was called Enemy Squad at the time.
Okay.
So he used my bass player, my keyboard player, one of my guitar players, and quite a few other local P Funk members, and we put this little band together, and we did a show. It was
Huh.
pretty deep. Like I said, at that time I was 18, and
Okay.
I
Well,
remember him like coming to my mom's basement for the first time and hearing me play drums, and I remember him kind of making this face, looking like a squinted face, like,
huh.
George Clinton, that could be one or two things. That could be good or that could be bad. So,
Yeah. Right. Right.
but he was into it. He just like, and I was kind of stopped, like, everything cool. He's like, yeah, I never heard you play before. And I was
Oh,
like, oh.
okay.
So
Oh,
that's kind of where that started. So that happened
yeah.
in my basement. George Clinton actually saw me in my mom's basement with my band, and we were going over some of their songs for this show at this little club, the Cotton Club.
Oh, that's cool. Didn't you have like offered to play with the Red Hot Chili Peppers at one point too?
Well, that happened
Did
right
that ring?
after that.
Oh, okay.
So I was, like I said, at that time I was a really big Chili Pepper fan, and I was go to their shows at St. Andrews Hall. They used to play St. Andrews Hall
Oh,
like all the time. So
yeah.
I was just like, you know, I remember my first show there, seeing them, and still was like such the most intense thing I ever saw. And
Yeah.
especially just being a four-piece band with no like uh other gimmicks
Yeah.
or singers and
No
stuff, because
keyboard, right? No keys.
no keyboard.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that album, Freaky Styley, that George produced in '85. It's a full on P Funk production. I mean, he's got
Yeah.
half the P Funk vocalists singing on it,
Oh,
and he's got the P Funk horns and the horny horns. Fred Wesley and Maceo are
Macy.
all on that record. Yeah,
I didn't know
so
that. I got to go back and
oh,
listen to that. Okay.
that's one of the
Yeah.
dopest albums to me, still to this
Yeah.
day. So, so this had to be '86. So that's when I
Okay.
first met them. And at the time, they were doing songs from the record, but yeah, you didn't hear those horns and those parts, but still they delivered, and like you didn't
Yeah.
really miss the parts. And the Detroit scene, I loved it back then because I was kind of a punk rocker, and they were more into like punk funk, so it was like really
Yeah.
intense, and they
They
used
would
to
cross that.
come out with the
Yeah.
socks on their genitalia, and that was it. So I mean, yo, it was just crazy entertainment. You just like
I never
just
saw them live, so
oh yeah, well that was look they used to do it. So
yeah.
they had a few members over the years because
Mhm.
I would literally close with them. I would like hang out in the dressing room, help them get
Oh, okay.
dressed, and
Yeah.
just all kind of wild stuff. So they knew
Yeah.
me like every time they came to Detroit. And once I got a call, and my mom was like, somebody called and something. Hold on, this is my grandmother. I was staying with her, and she kind of
Okay.
raised me. So I get on the phone, and it was Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's like, hey man, we wanted to see if you wanted to come to LA and audition
Wow.
for
Yeah.
our band and stuff. And I thought me in P Funk. So
Michael Clip Payne.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
guy.
I'll go. We're Facebook friends then. Okay.
Michael Cliff
Uh,
Payne is kind of considered, and this is fact, the fifth Chili Pepper, like how the Beatles had Billy
really?
Preston or whatever.
Oh
So
yeah.
Clip is the fifth Chili Pepper, believe it or not. So,
Huh.
so anyway, he's kind of my liaison into getting into that whole organization, and he
Okay.
recommended me to Flea. So Flea called, and at that time I was trying to finish high school because, as you know, I was struggling trying to finish my
Yeah.
classes because I was working at night in the clubs, and so I was missing some of
Yeah.
my school hours. So
Yeah. Right.
I was trying to make that up, and so there's two weird things that happened simultaneously right after that. So after that call, I remember jumping up and down and be like, "Okay, I'll get back to you," kind of thing, and
Okay.
I remember discussing it with my grandmother, and she was like, with the who? You going to where? I don't know. No, she's like, no, the Red Hot Chicky Peckers. That's what she called them. she was like, I don't care who it is, you're gonna finish high school. And I'm like, oh man. So
Yeah, right, right.
so that's where that went. It was
Oh,
like
okay.
I didn't get to go audition. And the other weird thing is I ended up mentioning that to a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of Detroit's great drummers. I'm sure you know him. Everybody knows him. He happened to mention that to Chad Smith, who was with
Oh,
Toby Red at the time, and he didn't even
yeah.
know who the Chili Peppers were at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh,
I remember Toby Red. Hmm.
yeah, so that was pretty deep, and
Yeah.
we just it's just I didn't get the gig. I was disappointed, but
Oh,
so a
but
year
you were in
later,
that circle, though.
yeah,
You're in
yeah,
that circle. So,
right. Well, and the other thing that happened that was unfortunate was I also got a scholarship to Berkeley, and
oh, right. Okay. Uh-huh.
I didn't go either. So
Yeah.
because my first 2 years was melody percussion, like marimba and xylophone, and I had
Oh,
been
yeah.
playing drums by ear. I was a great drummer, but I got scared and choked. I ain't gonna lie. I remember like I'm thinking, what? I was like, I don't even know how to play the piano really. So because that's how drums and piano are related in the same family because
Oh, okay.
of the xylophone and marimba and stuff like that. So that's really
Uh,
it's percussion, but it's
yeah.
piano keys. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
so yeah, so I didn't end up going to Berkeley, which kind of bummed me out, and I ended up playing with this local popular reggae band, which had a couple national songs, Onyx, and
Onyx. Okay.
yeah, it was a pretty big. We had a record. Electrifying Mojo was playing the song Dread Wave,
Huh.
and it was big, and they did a couple TV appearances, but that was before I ended up joining them. It was through Clip again from P Funk. He kind of pulled me into
Okay.
that because there was several other members in P Funk involved with Onyx, like Shirley Hayden,
Shirley Hayden.
Satori
Okay.
Shakur,
Uh huh.
and Clip, and just a couple other people. Blackbird McKnight, who's one of P Funk's ferocious guitar players, who also played with Herbie Hancock and played with the Chili Peppers for like 2 weeks
Okay.
too. So it didn't
Okay.
last long because he was
Yeah.
still in their show because of his guitar playing. But anyway, I'm still cool with the Chili Peppers. Even to this day, they still remember me. And
Yeah.
a little bit after that, uh, they had a show here in Detroit, and they ended up coming to stay at my house one Thanksgiving, and they ended
Oh,
up
they did.
coming to Paychecks to see my band play,
Huh.
which was
Okay.
kind of like I was trying to leave them at the house. I didn't even want them to come to see us because I was kind of embarrassed. Like about, so I was like, it was Thanksgiving, and they didn't want to stay in the hotel room, and I get it, the two
Oh.
beds and the TV theory,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know. So I was like, oh, you guys just stay here, have all the food you want. I'll be back, I was
Oh.
like, and they ended up showing up. It was at Paychecks in Hamtramck, right?
Yeah.
So they ended up coming to the show, and I remember seeing them at the front door, and I'm on the drums looking at it. I'm like looking at Mr. Paycheck, like giving them problems. I'm like, hey, I'm on the mic, like that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Let them in. Like
Yeah. Oh, right. They didn't know who they were. Right.
they didn't know
They,
who they were, and
yeah.
whatever. My little screen fell. Hold
Don't worry about it. There you
on.
go.
You gonna have to edit
Yeah.
that.
That's okay. Yeah. He can. He can.
so so anyway, yeah. They ended up coming to hang out, and I'm sure you might know this guy. He's a famous sound guy that just passed. One of the good friends of mine,
Hmm.
Chris Benacki. So
Okay.
Chris Benacki ran St. Andrews, and
Oh.
he
Okay.
was the guy as far
Okay.
as sound. He always a brat, man. Your kick drum, man. Nobody's got a foot like you in Detroit, and da da da, and all this stuff.
All
And
right.
the way he mixed it in St. Andrews, you would think it was level of building. So, but
Yeah.
he did. I remember him always saying that one story, and every time I would see him, the Detroit music was like he would tell people, "This guy turned the Chili Peppers down," and all stuff. I was like, "Shut up, Chris!" And all so,
Uh. Well,
but
there's a lot of cool stories. I mean, we can go
yeah,
on. I'm trying to keep, you know, these shows in one. half hour. We can go on for a couple
Oh
for
wow,
sure.
okay.
So,
Well,
but that's
yeah, no,
okay. That's
I'm
okay.
just kind of going off memory here, but yeah, I figured you can
That's cool.
cut and paste where you need to, you know.
But that's but hey, that's an excuse to bring you on again, and we can continue on with some other cool stories I'm sure you have. But before we go, can maybe just tell everybody where everybody can find if you have any shows coming up that you want everybody to know about, and where everybody could find your music.
Well, my band now is Enema Squad, and we pretty much just put out some singles and some vinyl and some digital releases. You can get those on
Okay.
Bandcamp,
Okay.
and also anywhere digital music is pretty much all the
Okay.
digital platforms. You
All
can
right.
get it there, and as well as a few other things. And I know you're on our single, one of the singles I just released
That's
that
right.
we cut years ago. But hey, like they say, good music don't have an expiration date, so I don't really worry about
That's
that.
right.
It's just whenever it comes out, it comes out.
Yeah, that was with that studio in Ferndale, Studio
Yeah,
54.
FBT. I'm still working out of there. I got some
Oh,
stuff
okay.
coming up
Uh-huh.
there actually soon,
Uh-huh.
and I've been working. I got a lot of the P Funk members on the record as well,
Okay.
and it's a plethora of you know, the record is called Greatest Hits, of course. So I know it's shocking, but hey,
What'd you
it's
say? Greatest what? Great. What'd you say?
greatest hits.
You did say greatest hits. Okay.
Yeah, it's like hits, but yeah. So I mean,
Okay. I get
it's a
it.
play on words, because like nowadays when you say something is the, it's good. So
Well, I figured you
it's
were,
yeah, I don't believe
on.
in bad words or cuss words because they just
Yeah.
words. It just and then if it's in the dictionary, it really ain't a bad word. So
Yeah, you just have
you
fun
gotta
with
look at it
music.
like that. It's the way you express and use it that makes it bad. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
people
You
gotta look at it like that. So yeah, you can get it from there. And
okay.
I'm on social media on Instagram, Gabe Gonzalez, lowercase, and as
Okay.
well as my fan page on Facebook, Gabe Gonzalez, and
Gabe
check out my
Gonzalez.
radio show Wednesday nights at pfunkradio.com.
There you go. Okay.
And yeah, you can get me there. And like I said, I got a show
Oh,
right
there you
now. We've been trying to finish up the album and some other stuff, but I think our first show is at the Hash Bash in Ann Arbor this year.
Oh, all right.
I'm not sure the date, but I think we're headlining. I know that. So, but
Okay, that's usually on April 20. Is it? I think they. Okay.
it's usually on 420. I
Okay.
don't know if it is this year.
Okay.
Sometimes they've been doing it a little bit before that, depending on. It's usually on a weekend, like a Sunday or a
Sure.
Saturday. So.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, all listeners and watchers out there, be on the lookout for Gabe Gonzalez and the Hash Bash, and also all his music up online. And check out this show up on YouTube, Bloomfield TV. That's probably where you'll be watching it, and also on BCTV. So, hey, thanks, Gabe, for joining, taking the time
Thank
to
you.
join today. And I'm Kat Orlando on CHOPS, BCTV, signing off, and see y'all soon.